So thank you. I should probably play this much cooler, but I'm a little overwhelmed today because today has so far been a day that you don't wake up expecting it to be. You don't generally wake up expecting at some point for your Facebook feed to be flooded with your picture on other people's profiles. So my friend Lauren is vaguely amazing and engineered that little thing. So yeah, instead of finalizing my notes, like I like to push everything to the end, instead of finalizing my notes, I spent a few minutes in my office just feeling really like misty and overwhelmed. So we're going to get through this just fine, I promise you. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself, give you a little backstory. You guys have all shared about you, so why don't I share about me? My name is Geoff Welch, and I co-own Dateline Digital Printing. And I've been at Dateline for, I think, 15 years this year. And I've owned it with my business partner, Travis Lewis, for about the last 8. And we care a lot about customer service, which I think will come through in this presentation. We've always been a business that is built on customer service. I'm a personal believer that you don't get very far without good customer service. At least you don't get a lot of repeat business. You spend a lot of time and energy finding new people to come buy your products and services when your service is bad because you're constantly having a lot of churn. I like to start my presentations with a picture of my family so that I am human and relatable, and you guys will be nice to me because these fine people have signed off on me. This is my wife, Nicole, and my daughter, Madeline, and they are amazing, and I wonder sometimes what my wife was thinking when she married me, because she is, I traded up. I definitely traded up. So that's my family. I really appreciate this PRSA group, and there are a lot of people in this room today, and that's really, really wonderful. I started, I think, about a year ago was my first PRSA meeting, something like that. And so to think a year later, here I am getting to share my thoughts and ideas with you guys. And I will wander around a little bit so that some of the people behind the pillar can see me, and so that I can see you too. But this group has been, it was just really, really an inviting group. It was a group of people who I never felt like when I showed up that I was a stranger or I was not welcome or that there was a little club that I was going to have to find my way into. And so I appreciate that. That to me is a little bit of customer service right there. It's developing an atmosphere where people feel welcome to participate. And so I hope you guys feel that too, because that's something that I think that this PRSA crew is pretty good at. So I'm just really completely honored to be here. When Hannah talked to me in May, we planned ahead here. I said, oh yes, I would love to come and speak and talk about customer service. It's something that I'm really excited about, and I would absolutely love to do that. And then I left that meeting thinking, what am I going to talk to PR people about? Like, what do I know about PR? And PR seemed like these big capital letters, and it was sort of daunting to me. And thankfully, Hannah is a very kind and gracious person, and she reminded me that the words public relations, that's relating to the public. And I like to think about people relations, but I relate to people every day at Dateline. That's not really that far-fetched, you know? And I began to realize that this sort of complicated thing, this idea of PR, wasn't really that far-fetched for me. But at Dateline, and maybe it is for you guys too, I'm not sure how you guys operate, at Dateline it's very messy. Customer service and advertising and PR and marketing, they're a big knot. They're not separate, distinct silos. They're not something that I can say, I'm going to do some PR right now. You know, I can't separate them. They are sort of just locked together. And that, I think, is very indicative of how they're supposed to be. And I really, so this idea of customer service is the new black. The customer service is the thing that goes with everything. That is built on this idea that, and my friend Mike Lund, we've had some discussions about marketing and customer service about how those two things are basically everything in your business. And it just depends on what you're talking about as to which one you say, whether marketing is everything or customer service is everything. But customer service is tied to everything you do. When I think about how I spend my day at Dateline, whether I am talking to people on the phone, whether I am printing something, whether I am with a customer in the store, how I maintain my store, all that stuff comes back to this idea of how am I going to serve my customer? How am I going to take their needs into account and do the best that I can to give them what they need? And I'm going to, in just a second, I'm going to break down how to serve your customers for you. I'm going to break it down into a really, really simple 4-step process that is going to blow your mind. But I'm not sure if I'm good at customer service because I love it, or if I love customer service because I'm good at it. I don't know which one it is, but both of those things are true. It's something that I just, there are days that I'm in my shop and I am just going through all the stuff that happens. And I mean, you all know how your days go. Sometimes you're just along for the ride. You know, you are trying to just keep up with what's happening. And you have these interactions with people that just like sort of reset whatever is going on in your brain. You know, you have this interaction with a customer and you're like, yeah, this is what it's about. This is great. You know, yesterday somebody came in and this to me is a testament that we're doing customer service okay. A customer came in without her dog. And this is a customer that always comes in with her dog. And she came in to tell us that her dog had died. It was a sad, sad story, but we knew her with her dog. And for her to not be with her dog on that day was an unusual thing. And you don't know those things if you're not paying attention to your customers, if you don't have the opportunity to sort of interrelate with your customers. And that's a little different for retail, where I live. We get a little more face time perhaps with customers than, or at least repeat customers than maybe some of you do. But that to me was a moment, and she thanked me in the process of telling this incredibly sad story about her dog dying. She thanked me for the thank you cards that we send. And it's like I get that all the time. And those are some of my favorite moments that, you know what, it actually matters to people and it's making a difference. I love that. So I write a blog called This Tiny Empire about this idea of building a life that matters. And I think that part of how I do that is by serving my customers really well. We can sometimes make the idea of building a life that matters really complicated, but all that matters, and today is a great testament of that. When people start changing their profile pictures to your face, you feel like maybe you matter to somebody. And that, on the way over here, there was a teenager driving really, really, really fast down University. And I thought, I'm going to get hit by a car today. And it's going to be okay. Because guess what happened this morning? So I think that customer service is part of how that lives out in my life and part of what I want to leave behind. I don't like to look at customer service as just being transactional, as just being how do I get from here to your wallet. There's more to it than that in my mind. But we're going to talk about the word customer service, but I hate the phrase customer service because, again, I think we're serving people. We're serving other humans. When we put it in a box of customers, we eliminate a bunch of people who maybe aren't your customers yet that you have the opportunity to make a difference for. Thanks Fairbanks is a pretty good example of that. We send free cards to a lot of people who are not our customers, but we have an opportunity to serve them, and it's something that we have all the resources available to do that. We cared a lot about the idea, and I'll talk a little bit more about that soon. But it is, service is an act of service, right? I mean, like service, once you start getting paid for something, it really ceases to be service anymore. It's like an obligation. So I like the idea of service. I like the idea of going beyond what is, I like rejecting the status quo. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience so you'll feel really warm and fuzzy about what I have to share with you today, okay? So I sort of sometimes have a kind of a heretical view of business. I'm not exactly like normal business guy. I didn't go to business school. I'm not a classically trained customer service guy. I like to think of myself as an entrepreneur who gives a damn about people, if I can be frank. People are the important part for me. And sometimes that means that I probably don't make as much money as I could, but that's okay because I sleep pretty well at night. I don't wake up a lot of nights thinking, oh, wow, I should have squeezed $20 more out of that guy. I sleep pretty well. But most of my customer service, my dad is a pastor, as you guys know, most of my customer service came in church. Most of my customer service training and my business training, it happened in church, which may seem a little weird, but I'm going to share with you 2 business lessons from the Bible today, okay? And I don't want to freak you guys out. We're not going to have church. There's not going to be an offering plate passed around or anything like that. Do we have an offering plate? Is there one? Okay. So we might have an offering plate. But I want to tell you 2 things that inform my view of business and of customer service, okay? These are paraphrased. Treat others as you'd like to be treated, and care about others at least as much as you care about yourself. That's sort of where I start and stop when it comes to my business training. Now, I execute these things with varying levels of success. I don't want to give anybody the impression that because these are things that I hold dear, that I'm really good at them all the time. There are lots of times when I'm super selfish. But this is what I aspire to. This is when I think of how am I treating my customers, I'm asking these questions. And I love to tell my staff when they're not sure how to handle a situation with a customer, I love to tell them, well, if it was my mom, what would you do? If it was your mom, what would you do? That sort of changes the way we think about it a little bit sometimes. You know, when you think about what if this was somebody really important to me, would I make the same choice? Sometimes that means doing some work over that's marginal, that you might be able to get away with it. Maybe they won't notice. But if it was my mom, I don't know. I think I would fix it. I would make sure it was right. And so those are the things that we ask ourselves. I left my water over here, and I think I need a little refill. I'm getting dry. Excuse me. Thank you very much. This is actually a scripted part of the show, guys. Planned this for about a week and a half. So I would like to now share with you how to serve your customers well, okay? Now this is going to be complicated, okay? Know who they are. Figure out what they want and or need. Figure out how to provide what they want and or need. And this is the kicker. Treat them like actual humans while you are providing what they want and or need. I don't know why this is so hard, but it seems like it is. Because I tell you, service sucks in a lot of places. I mean, it's to the point where decent service is surprising. Like, you go someplace and you get okay service. It's like, it's marginal. You're sort of like happy about that. And that is like frustrating to me. It's incredibly frustrating to me that we've come to a point where we're just so desensitized to what it means to take care of people that we're willing to settle for not good service. I think the difficulty here is in the simplicity, right? It seems like it's too simple, okay? I mean, those four little things, know your customers. That seems like a really, really basic thing, right? But do you? Do you have a strong sense of who your customers are? Who, when you are trying to communicate with them, who you're talking to? Do you know that? Do you know what they actually want or need from you? It's very easy for me to want to tell them what they want or need, but I don't always know the answer to that in and of myself. I need to be talking to my customers about what they want or need so that I know how to provide it. And if I can, There are times when a customer will request something that is sort of peripheral to what we do, and it can be very enticing to want to just say, yeah, no, we can handle that. And then you try to handle it and you blow it all up and they hate you because you screwed it up and you told them you could handle it. Sometimes a very important part of service is knowing when to say no and knowing when to give a recommendation. Somebody asked us about ID badges the other day. We don't make ID badges. There are a couple of ways that we could sort of ham-fisted put something together to make it work. But it wasn't going to serve I happened to have had a conversation with the customer, and I knew what they really needed. And so I sent them someplace else. I took the step of telling them where I thought they could actually get that done, and passed them along to the entity that could take care of them. And I think sometimes part of good service is knowing when to say no. Knowing when to say, that's not what we're going to be best at. But here's how you can get what you need. I want the service we provide at Dateline, and this actually will be scary to you guys, but I want it to be surprising and irresponsible. I want customers to interact with us and for us to do things where they say, wait, what? Because normal people don't do those things. I want to stretch the limits of what they get from us. I want to stretch that to the point that they are surprised at that interaction. Because again, I don't think that you make a big difference by trying to be medium. I'm not a big guy, but I like to refer to myself sometimes as extra medium. I don't think medium gets you anywhere. Like, I don't think medium is the place you want to be. You want to be great. You want to be providing service and doing things that are going to make your customers say, holy cow, you will not believe what just happened. And you guys are communicators. So I hope that you are telling stories with service at the heart, where that is a part of the story you're telling. Now, I love to be the guy that knows something that somebody else doesn't know, and not like trivia, but like about a band or a movie, an app for your phone. I love to be the guy who's like, oh no, you got to check this out. This is great. You will love this. So you can sort of connect the people you like with the things you like in meaningful ways. Well, we're sort of accidentally building that with Thanks Fairbanks. And I say accidentally because I would love to say that when we started this thing a year and a half ago, that we had this great plan for how this was going to, people were going to want to share this story, and it was really going to benefit us. It was going to be awesome, and I was really like some sort of nefarious mastermind. But mostly no. Mostly that just happened by accident. But we start this project called Thanks Fairbanks, where we give away free thank you cards to anyone who wants to sign up in the Fairbanks North Star Borough. And when we started that, the immediate fear was that either no one would sign up or everyone in Fairbanks would sign up on the first day, because I don't do anything halfway. I may be extra medium, but my brain is always working at the extremes. But what we found is that we've gotten a lot of attention from that, when that wasn't exactly the point. But it doesn't hurt. I'm not complaining about the attention. But we got a lot of attention from that, and not just for us, not just everyone saying, oh, Dateline is doing Thanks Fairbanks, but we've got people who are sharing it with each other. And they get to be sort of the hero in this story, where it's like, oh, yeah, I want to share these cards with my friends. And, oh, yeah, you've got to go check this thing out. They're giving away free thank you cards. And that is kind of an amazing thing, when you can put your customers at the center of your story, when you're inviting them into the story you're telling. It may not seem like customer service, but I know that I feel very well served when I get to be an advocate for a company that I care about. And your customers will get to look like heroes when you are doing things that they want to share with other people. And so service, if you really want to get good at service, service needs to become sort of part of the fabric of this story you're telling. It needs to be like woven in there so that it's not just a peripheral element. It's not just, and also service. But it's like service becomes a core part of the work you do. And there are a few people in this room that I know quite well that are doing this. And they're doing this in organizations that you would not expect service to matter so much. Some, let's say, government organizations, you might assume that people would be less invested in having a great outcome because it's government work. Except for I know all these people who don't know what government work is. They care about service, and they can't stop caring about that because they do government work. They are advocates and ambassadors for great work, regardless of who is paying the paycheck. And so I personally have been very, very inspired by a number of people that I come from a very entrepreneurial background. I own my own business, and we make our own decisions, and it's a very flat kind of organization. But when I see these people who care enough to want to change the organizations they're a part of, and they know that's not going to happen tomorrow, they know it's going to be a process, that is crazy inspiring to me. So some of you guys, if I can inspire you at all, you've already inspired me. I'm just paying you back. And once you can convince your customers that you're the real deal in that regard, it may take a little bit of time because people are a little jaded. I'm a little jaded. I'm the most optimistic skeptic that I know. But yeah, I can be a little cynical. And yet, when you see something that you can buy into, when you feel like a company is really the real, when they have broken down sort of the brand barrier and you feel like you're dealing with human people, it becomes a story that you want to tell. And as communicators, you're trying to communicate. That seems like a reasonable leap, right? But what if there are people that are communicating for you? What if the work you're doing and the story you're telling is something that people want to share on your behalf? That seems like it might make your job a little bit easier. You got to do a good job of communicating the story well, which seems like a good place to start anyway. But to develop basically brand advocates that aren't on your payroll but are dying to tell your stories. Anybody got an iPhone? Anybody ever met somebody with an iPhone that was like, I hate this thing. Apple's dumb. I don't like their products. They're out there, but they're a minority. Most of the people who have an iPhone are like Apple nerds, like I am. It's like they want to tell you about it every chance they get, right? Yesterday, Apple has this big, keynote, new iPads, new MacBooks, all sorts of stuff. I found out about it last night, and I was mad. I cannot fathom how I did not get the memo on this. And so I can tell you, I like to be the guy that knows the stuff. I like to be able to tell my friends. And when I find out about this 7 o'clock last night, I was like, friggin' Apple. I don't know how I missed it. But I wanted to be on the front end of that. I wanted to be the one saying, oh, the new iPad, it's so shiny. And so if you can serve your customers well enough that they start to care about you, they start to care about your brand, you are going to develop these advocates that are going to want to share your story. And that, I don't know anything more valuable than that in terms of communication. Because I can stand here all day long and say, Dateline is the best. We really are great. You guys, Dateline is wonderful. We love people, and we do really good work, and we're fast. We are amazing, right? Okay, fine. Tomorrow, somebody says, oh yeah, I had this done at Dateline. Those guys were wonderful. If that's someone you know and trust, that means about 10,000 times what me talking up here is going to do for you. Because the people you trust have a tremendous amount of influence over you. So if your story is told well, if you're serving your customers in a way that is really meaningful to them and they want to start talking to other people about that, you can't buy it. That's not for sale. There's nothing you can do to buy advertising or marketing or PR or whatever that is that good. But you have to tell that story well, and you have to be aware of, depending on how tall your organization is. I have a very flat organization. There are 5 people at Dateline. 2 of us are owners, and there are 3 employees. We see each other basically 8 hours a day, and we're sort of a little bit like family. But there's not a lot that goes on that no one else knows about. We're all sort of in that same loop. But some of your organizations are much more complicated than that. And when there's a gap between what the corporate communications people are saying, the story they're telling, and what the frontline people are telling, customers figure that out fast. Have you ever gotten a hamburger at any restaurant? I'm not going to even call anybody out. At any restaurant that looked like the picture. It doesn't exist. And it's like we have been tricked that way so many times that our BS detectors are like at red alert all the time, right? We are constantly looking for the inconsistency. We're constantly looking for the thing that, yeah, you say you're great, but then your guy did this to me. Well, yeah, but the girl at the counter, she said this, and I didn't like that. And those kind of things are the tricky parts that you've got to get alignment. I think in large part that is often a hiring problem, where you've got to get people who are on board with what you are, with the values of the company and what you really espouse. But ultimately, there's got to be a lot of good internal communication too, to make sure that everybody in the organization is on the same page and they understand it. Even if not everyone in the organization does it the same way, the story has to be the same, the story you're telling. And so if I talk about customer service being really important and you come into my shop and people act like they don't care, that's a big, big problem, right? Immediately you're like, well, but he said this and they're doing that. In fact, I talked to one of my employees the other day about this talk. And we were just talking about what was going on. And she said, when you do these talks, it makes me want to step up my game, because I realize that when you do this, people are going to have a higher expectation of us. And that there's a little bit of, it's sort of fraught with danger. Like the more I talk about this, the more you sort of put a target on your back, But I loved that that's where she went with that, And she even went as far to say, I don't want to be the one someone complains about to you. Like, I said, yeah, there's always that moment of terror when you're in front of a group of people and they open it up for questions, and that first person that stands up, you're just sure they're going to be like, well, one time I went in your store and I waited for 27 minutes, and it's like you definitely don't want that. But the idea of setting yourself up that way and putting service at the core does put you in a little bit of danger. And so what if you screw up? What if you mess it up? Well, I can reassure you, you will. You will screw it up. You will, either you will or your employees will do things that were not part of the script and that were not ideal. Because we are human people dealing with human people, right? So it is inevitable that someone is going to say the wrong thing. In fact, would you say crisis communications is a part of PR? Is that like a subset? So crisis communications would not exist if there was perfect, because there would never be the need for it. People would just always say the right thing, and they'd always do the right thing, and everything would be perfect. But the very fact that there's a whole industry around crisis communication seems to be pretty decent proof. And the whole arc of human history. This imperfection seems to be a part of that story. We have yet to really find perfection. So, but I think the response, the human response, is the critical part. I mean, just in recent weeks, I've dealt with complaints from customers because mistakes happen and they're inevitable. But if you can apologize to a human person like a human person, it really, really changes the math on that. And I personally, I've had a number of situations where somebody who has really not been happy with me or with something that we did have turned out to be huge fans because of the way we responded to that. And the tricky part, I think, really, guys, is that the lawyers and all the people in corporate, human stuff is hard for them. It's hard for them to say, yeah, no, apologize like a human, because it's the lawyer's job to say, no, we didn't do anything wrong. No, there's no fault here. And so some of that is going to be tricky to navigate. But how do you feel about a brand that when you know they've done something wrong, they will do everything but apologize? A friend of mine recently had I wish I could remember who this was. There's probably someone in this room that maybe will correct me, but they had a bad interaction with a company that was very, very, very frustrating, and the company sent them a $5 gift certificate. And it was a gesture, but there was never an apology. There was never anything close to, we're sorry. We did something wrong. And Seth Godin had posted recently this week, and I know a couple of people in here have read it because they shared it, but posted about people really, when they complain, they're not really trying to get their money back in every situation. Sometimes they're just looking for the apology. Sometimes they're just looking to be validated, like, hey, you injured me in some way, you know? And it may be a small thing. I joke a lot that I'm really glad that printing is not a life or death kind of thing. Like, I would not do well as a doctor to think that I could go to work one day and somebody a customer service situation that I had, they didn't like get up after that. That's a whole different ball of wax, right? But even though these situations are not life or death, they're still important to the people that you're serving. They still matter. So when we're dealing with pieces for a trade show or something that somebody needs for an event that they're flying out to, if we don't have that done on time, is the world going to end? No. But is that going to put this person in a really bad spot? Yeah. And we care about that. And I think that is something that people are looking for when when you've screwed up. Is do you see me as another human? Am I just a problem you've got to deal with, or am I somebody that actually has some significance because I'm breathing air here in this world that we're both sharing? And if you can do that, if you can help them see that, you can really move from an adversarial situation to something where they start to appreciate your brand in a different way. So I think that I really firmly believe that service is connected and tied to every single thing in your business. And it would be fun later, like after, if you want to come talk to me, try to find a part of your business that we can't connect back to customer service in some way. And then I'll ask you why you're doing it. Because if it's not serving your customer in some way, it may be superfluous. You may be able to just go back to work and say, we need to stop doing this because it's wasteful. But all of these things that aren't necessarily you and me standing across a counter from one another, they still are connected back to customer service. And I strongly believe that everything that a business does is connected in that way. So I would just like to sort of close my remarks today by saying that service is not easy. Sometimes service is not natural. I can be a pretty selfish guy. But it really matters. It matters to the people that you interface with at work professionally. It matters so both internally and externally. The people that you deal with within your business and the people that are your customers, it matters because it's missing. You ever get something in the mail that you're sort of surprised came in the mail because your email box is all full all the time, and now it's like, oh, a letter seems really significant. it's the thing that's missing is the thing that we all are looking for and that resonates with us. My daughter was asking the other night about being the boss at Dateline. She's 6 years old, and apparently the hierarchy of power is very important to her. And she said, so you're the boss, so you can leave when you want to leave? I said, well, sort of, yeah. Yeah, I could do that. And so she's rattling off these things that are very self-centered. They're very what you could do for you because you're the boss. And I said, yeah, but honey, here's the thing about leadership. Leadership is really about taking care of people. And that's what customer service is about. I say, so I've got employees at Dateline that it's my responsibility to take care of them. And so, sure, I could just wander out of the store whenever I wanted to because I'm the boss, and who's going to say boo? But that does not serve the people that are in this with me very well. And then we talked about how she probably wouldn't like it as her father if I just said, I'm just going to do whatever I want, and you figure it out yourself, little 6-year-old kid. I said, as your parent, it's my job to take care of you. And so, yeah, I'm the boss of you, but there's a lot of responsibility that goes into being the boss of you, you know? It's not just what I want. It's what's best for you, what's best for my employees. And that really is where customer service comes down to for me. If you want to be a leader in customer service, if you want to be somebody who is on the cutting edge of offering great service, it's not about following a 15-point checklist of here are all the things you need to do. It's about giving a damn about people and being willing to say, you know what, I'm going to put the needs of my customers ahead of what is most convenient for me. So, thank you.